Okay, so this video is a spinoff of the one before it, which was a spinoff of the one before it. Here's the conversation topic. I'm telling you as an American that when I hear different accents of the English language, I'm telling you that when I hear the English accent from people in Great Britain, when I hear that accent, yes, it sounds like a foreign accent to me. But I can't tell you honestly that that accent is any more foreign to certain regional accents we have here in America. And I'm not here to tell you that I'm really that great at mimicking some of those. But just for example, I think especially people outside of the United States would say that when they hear the accent from like the Northeast, like Boston or Maine, that accent is so strong that it's very easy to distinguish as a different accent. Because I'm trying to imagine myself as someone who's not a native English speaker. If I heard an accent from someone who's in Boston, and here's a horrible impression of it, this is going to be awful, okay? If you want to know what a real Boston accent sounds like, look at someone else's YouTube video on it. This is my horrible impression of that accent. Going to the Bar Harbor in Maine, in Boston. You know how it is, you guys. Okay, that's awful, but that's my version of it. But then there's the Southern accent, which thanks to what George W. Bush as president for 8 years, I think a lot of people, and Bill Clinton for 8 years, so 16 years of presidents in a pretty recent history that they heard that very strong Southern accent, which I can switch to that pretty easily myself, because a lot of you people forgetting that I'm actually from Alabama. I'm born and raised in Alabama. I'm used to how people talk where I grew up. But because my mom's from New York, I guess that's my reason. Because of that, I was able to hear the different accents, and I knew that people who talk like they did in Alabama, that was an accent. I recognized it as an accent. And because I knew that wasn't how everybody talked, and I knew how people talked, like my grandparents that were from the north, my Italian grandfather, he's from Wisconsin, and my Mexican grandmother from Buffalo, New York, I heard them talking growing up. I was so close to them that when I heard them talking, I knew that it wasn't like everybody around me talked. And subconsciously, I started getting more of just a flat, neutral accent. Maybe closer to Louisville, Kentucky, which borders the South and the Midwest, or maybe like Cincinnati, Ohio, which same concept, Ohio and Kentucky. So that could have been what happened. But ultimately, I became very aware that the Southern accent is pretty strong, and so is Maine. And then of course you've got the people up in the Midwest. They kind of talk nasally, and that's just how it is. It's just colder up there, so they have their accent, What kind of car do you have anyway? Okay, yeah, now I'm going back to Boston. See, I'm not good at accents, and I'm not claiming to be. Other people on YouTube are. I'm not one of them. I'm the guy that just asks questions. Okay, so with that being said, what I'm just pointing out is that I feel, as an American, of all the regional accents that we have, the British accent, which when I think of like Great Britain, like the Beatles, when I hear them talk, yes, it's definitely a strong accent. But to say that it's any stronger than a Southern accent here in the United States, or someone that's from the Northeast, or even, I don't know, maybe the Midwest isn't so strong that it outpowers Great Britain as far as the accents go. But it is interesting that, and I guess this is my question for people who are not, from America, from the United States. Do you realize like how many accents we have, and that in theory that accents from different, like New Zealand and South Africa and Scotland, that's one of my favorite accents, Scotland, that ultimately we can tear down the national borders and look at all of these and put them all as equals, as, hey, these are all accents. Who cares if they're from the United States or not? These are all different, distinguishable accents. And perhaps it is people like me who grew up in between accents subconsciously that was able to realize that an accent actually exists while young enough, while I'm still learning the English language, so that ultimately I don't have the accent that other people. I don't know if you realize this, but a lot of my family's been in my videos. Okay, my mom has been in a lot of the videos, and people have left comments saying how Southern she sounds, despite the fact that she is born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and moved to the South when she was a teenager. What's funny is she ended up getting the accent. But then for me, I didn't get it. Again, I think it's because of my grandparents being from and it set off a distinction in my head. So it's interesting how that happens. But I think for certain people, and I'm not saying I don't have a little bit of an accent that you can trace back to the South, but because I was always so aware of it, I think it kept me from being able to speak with a designated accent. So tell me your thoughts all about it. Where?